biggest name of your time. You fought in all the big venues around the country, fought all the top fighters. This place was not around at that time. You did have some stadium fights. You had the fight in the Sun Bowl here in Texas. I think you drew, what, like 40 or 50,000 for that fight, in a fight against Patrick Charpentier?
I had about another 15,000, so we drew about 60,000 people there.
And of course, the fight in Carson at the soccer stadium, another 30+ thousand, a big crowd.
Correct.
How would you like the fight here?
Oh boy. Jerry, if we can talk after this fight, I would like to make a comeback in your stadium. Just kidding. Just kidding.
I thought we were going to make some news here for a minute.
Well, one thing I want to make sure that we're set up for, 90% of them will be women when they come. I want you to know that.
Jerry,
Oscar.
Jerry, wait a minute. Oscar, how much do you weigh?
Right, exactly.
Wait a minute.
Maybe
De La Hoya
light
Paz
heavyweight
coming
division.
soon. All right,
I have a question for Oscar. I saw the stage play called Golden Boy, and then there were 2 movies called Golden Boy, and that presumably is the origin of Oscar being called Golden Boy and now Golden Boy Promotions. And I'm just curious how you feel about having right now the new Golden Boy of boxing, the guy who brings in the gold.
You know, I feel proud that I can promote a young man who brings in the crowds and like me, had a lot of women fans who were amazing for the sport. And to promote such a young man is really a pleasure, because I take a look at my career. And when I won the gold medal in 1992, Barcelona, the Golden Boy was born for me. And you know, you have this image that everything you touch turns to gold. And except for my opponents, when I touch them, they turn to bronze. You know, promoting Canelo Alvarez today, I envision myself. I envision him bigger than what my career was. That's my goal. That's my dream. That's my vision. I want him to have more world titles than I did. I want him to make a lot more money than I did in the ring. I want him to be more successful than I did. That is my job now as a promoter. But that's the I guess you know, the person in me. You know, I want him to be better than I was. I want him to have more than I did, and you know, that's the Golden Boy factor, and I believe that's what I'm promoting now is the new or another Golden Boy in Canelo Alvarez. So I feel proud.
Let's talk then a little bit about Canelo in terms of the improvements that he has made, because he's come a long way since he first burst on the scene, won his first title. I'll ask you, Larry, because you watched the young man for, you know, most of his career, from the time he was, you know, 22 or so, when he started to step up and fight some of the bigger names and win titles and become a main event marquee type fighter, to now having beaten the kind of fighters he has beaten, the experience with Mayweather despite the loss. Where do you see the improvements that the kid has made?
Well, I asked Oscar about 6 or 7 years ago, why don't you put him in with Pacquiao? And he said, well, it's a little too early, but it reflects my opinion of him as a prospect, not a suspect. And I think it's a kind of natural outgrowth of being raised in a boxing environment, both in his community, nationally, and in his family, that he was a sophisticated young fighter. And I still see him that way, that he can outbox you and outpunch you. And I'm a big fan of his. I was disappointed in what I thought was a disappointing effort that he made against Mayweather, however good Mayweather was. But as we've seen with many, life and boxing are about resilience and how you deal with things. And this is his 6th fight since the Mayweather fight. He's had a toe-to-toe win. He's won some boxing contests. he's a real deal young fighter.
Oscar, your thoughts about the improvements he's made, and maybe even still at only 26, despite the number of fights he's had, perhaps still getting better.
Well, the great thing is that he's getting better. He's improving every single fight. And I remember I went to Jerry Jones's training camp out in Oxnard a few weeks ago. And you remember, Jerry, I told you I gave that speech to your players, and I told them about the heart and the desire and the hard work, and winning the fight doesn't happen in the ring. It happens in the gym, in the field. You know, Canelo Alvarez is a fighter who, like your players, they work hard. They have the vision. They're hungry to win that title. And Canelo Alvarez is a fighter who is serious, who wants to improve, who wants to fight the best. And I have a little story about the Mayweather fight, the way it happened. You know, but he was only 21 years old when he took that fight. And you know, fighters, Vinny, are stubborn. You know, us fighters are very stubborn, and we feel we can beat anybody at any time. I told Canelo, do not take that fight. You're too young. Your experience is minimal compared to what Mayweather's was. And as a boy at the time that he was, with no experience, he said, Oscar, trust me, I can beat him. And obviously, as a promoter, an experienced fighter myself, I was going against that fight to make happen. But you know, fighters, like I said, are very stubborn. But that was a learning experience that made Canelo get better and hungrier. And Canelo right now wants to be the very best. And I feel that Saturday night against Liam Smith, it's not going to be a walk in the park. It's going to be a tough fight. But Canelo fights till the end, and he wants to win that title.
Now, Jerry, you spend most of your time, obviously you're promoting this fight and involved with it, but your time is spent generally doing your football business and you know, building your Dallas Cowboys team. But I know you're a big boxing fan. Do you draw any parallels between what football players go through, what boxers go through? Oscar mentioned about when he visited your camp about talking about the desire to be champion. It's different a little bit because it's a team sport. Everybody's got to kind of get in sync when the ball gets snapped, as opposed to the boxing match where it's one-on-one. But give me your thoughts about that sort of comparison.
At the end of the day, and I'm interrupting you, Dan, I apologize, but at the end of the
Boss,
day,
Jerry, you're the boss.
no, but at the end of the day, it gets down to the nut cutting, and it gets real simple. Whether it's in the highly competitive world of business, it's not that physical most of the time, but whether it is in the football or whether it is in boxing, it gets down to will. And Oscar said something else that day to our team that I don't know about the team, but it made old Jerry's spine shiver. And he told our team, I told you I was going to get emotional here, but he told our team, they were hanging on every word. And there was almost 90 of them sitting around, gathered around him. And he said, I love to get hit. I couldn't be what I wanted to be until I got hit. But if I hadn't have put it in the gym, if I hadn't have put it in the practice field, after I got hit, I would have had nothing to come back with. But because I put it in there, then I had something to come back with that inspiration of getting hit. I'm telling you, that dropped our jaws right there with it. And maybe it'll help us against Redskins up here this week. But yes, there is a huge similarity between calling on it, the will, the work ethic. I don't know how you see that. Oscar said he saw it real early in Canelo. He saw that. But I don't know how you see it. It's almost like going in a school and going in a business school and picking out who's going to be the one to be the millionaire. It's hard to see what's deep down in that heart, that hunger, will they bite? If they'll bite as a pup, they'll usually bite as a dog. They usually will. Will they have that, some of that intangible, much less the skill level, which more often than not, they've got some foibles in that area, and they have to overcome some of that. But it's that deep inside will that makes you have it. And so, oh yes, there's great analogies. It is always there. My interest in fighting, my interest in boxing, certainly all the way through correlated with my participation interest in football.
Well, we know that, Vinny Paz, for example, was a good amateur coming up through the ranks. Oscar, of course, was a gold medalist. Larry covered boxing for many years before he even started to call boxing on HBO. But my question for you, tell the folks a little bit about just your background in terms of becoming a fan and how you got to the point where you were going to be involved in it more than just as a spectator.
Well, I had great coaching as a child, as a kid. I had a mom and daddy that were entrepreneurs. They owed more than they could pay back. They were all the times figuring, finagling, but more important than everything, they were all the time working. And my little old ears were listening around that kitchen table. Also had some great coaching in life at a boys club. And that boys club was the center of my community's activity. And that boys club particularly really focused on fighting and boxing. And they had Sonny Ingram of that part of the world. They had a lot of people that were accomplished in Golden Gloves and what have you. And every kid from 8 to 18 was into being in some form or other of boxing. If the glove was as big as his head, he was into it. And that's where it came from, and that's where the interest came from. The other part, though, that is a part of it is just wanting to be around sports, the people of sports. I understand competition. I can give you, I'd say the business world may be as cutthroat and as competitive and throw the rule book away and as rough as a cop. And I'm telling you right now, it is elite that ends up at the top, and you can get knocked out on any deal. It's a tough place to go. I really wanted to be involved in sports all my life because of that. But I did want competition, but it led me to getting to sit here right now. But it also led me to being at ringside with Oscar tomorrow night, watching Canelo, Liam, watching them, and jumping out here, and hours later, sitting up there in my team meeting at about 8 in the morning before we play the Redskins. Now that, I think I've died and gone to heaven.
Now, one thing about the fight that's coming up is Canelo had won the middleweight title, defended it, just about a pound or so over the weight limit. And I want to ask Oscar about that. He gave up that title. He's coming down to 154, even if it's only a pound or so, to challenge Liam Smith for his world title. And what I'm interested to know is, why did you make that decision, or with Canelo and his team, to pursue the lower weight? And I have to ask you about the Triple G factor. That's the fight that you all said you wanted to do after he beat Amir Khan. We didn't get it, so I just give you the chance to sort of tell us what happened.
Yes, and Vinny Pazienza understands this as well. And after I explain it, people will understand.
Because I know Jerry wanted that fight here.
Canelo Alvarez is a 154 pounder. He's not a full-blown middleweight just yet. As a promoter, as a fighter in Canelo, we decided, look, go back down 1 pound, because when he fought for the middleweight title, he didn't fight for the belt. He wanted to fight Miguel Cotto. He wanted to have a legendary name under his belt, in his resume, so he can say, I beat a legend in Miguel Cotto. It so happened that he had a middleweight title. Miguel Cotto wanted to fight at 155. And as you know, Vinny, I mean, when you're middleweight, you fight at 160. That's the bottom line. There's no catch weights. Back in the day when we fought, there was no catch weights whatsoever. I had the pleasure of fighting my partner Bernard Hopkins at 160, and when I met him in the center of the ring,
there was a catch weight for that.
When I met him in the center of the ring, I said to myself, "Oh boy, what did I get myself into right here?" And it was a tough fight, but Canelo, we decided, let's go back down to 154. It's 1 pound. Capture a world title there. Fight the toughest competitor at 154 in Liam Smith. Stage it in the biggest stadium in the world, the best stadium in the world, and we'll make it an event, and we'll make it a real fight. And that's what we're gonna have tomorrow, is a real fight.
And I understand everything you're saying. Do you at all regret then the thought that came after the Khan fight, where you basically, you and Canelo in the boxing ring after the fight, invited Gennady Golovkin into the ring and made it sound, both in the ring and at the press conference, that that was next, to the point where I read articles in the Dallas newspaper where they talked about preparing this stadium for the possibility of you hosting that fight instead of the fight that we're going to get. We're going to get the fight Saturday, but maybe that would have been the fight. Do you regret making it sound like that was the fight that was next?
Well, I never said Jerry Jones is not going to get the Triple G fight with Canelo, so don't.
No, I just mean for the fight that's
A
taking
fight
place
like-
Saturday.
Oh yes, well, Jerry Jones deserves the very best in his stadium, and Saturday night he's getting the very best in Canelo. Tomorrow night.
It looked like he was, like you said, he went down to 154. He had to strip down to make the weight today. In your career, you tried to go down when you fought Pacquiao, and that was more than 1 pound. But how difficult, and I want to ask you about that also, because we talked a little bit about your struggles in your career of making weight. I'll start with Oscar. It sounds like, oh, it's only 1 pound to the average person, but sometimes that can be an awful lot for a boxer.
It is an awful lot. You have to work hard and drain your body to make the weight, but one thing about Canelo is that he is a natural 154 pounder. He made the weight with no problem. He actually ate in the morning and had a nice meal and made the weight. So I feel that Canelo is going to be nice and strong, and we're going to see a terrific fight. And Liam Smith is going to keep coming forward. He does not know how to take a step going back. It's a real fight.
Dan, I'm going to interrupt you a second, but this applies to Oscar. You guys need to know this. There's 5 things that make a great salesman. 1, ask for the money. I forgot the other 4.
That's our business lesson. You just gave us a free business lesson.
Let me write that one down, Jerry.
There's an interesting vibe about this fight because Liam Smith is basically unknown in America. He's never fought outside of Great Britain, and we still think of Great Britain producing good opponents, but not champions. Well, they've revived boxing in Great Britain after many, many decades of being down. They're up. And so we saw Frampton in a terrific fight a few weeks ago, probably unknown in America also. So they're on a run, and there's an excitement quotient there. And the vibe I was talking about is that people inside of boxing, even though he's beaten unknowns, more unknowns than he is, they look at him, they watch him, and they think, this kid's a fighter. He's better than an unknown is supposed to be. From my point, the only known is, I've never before seen a red-headed Mexican fight a gray-headed Brit. That's funny.
Before we get a little further, Jerry Jones has to leave right now. We really appreciate you joining us for this chat today. We're going to have Bernard Hopkins take Jerry Jones's place.
Right, Dan, let me
Thank
just
you very
say
much.
this.
Anything you want to say?
Yeah, one of the things that is exciting for me is that boxing, to me, a chance to take our stadium, a chance to take the Dallas Cowboys, any interest in visibility, especially we have for our great, serious Hispanic, Mexican, Vaqueros to Dallas fans. To take that and team it up with this quality, Oscar, to take it out with the promotion, to take it and put it up with this fight. And if you will, say to everybody that's willing to have some interest, and if more so, hey, look at what boxing can bring. Look at the competitiveness. Have it there. Then to me, that is a privilege. That's a real privilege, and I unabashedly want to take every advantage, everything we can do to get visibility.